Hello, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation, and this is part 2 of the topic is 4 marriage mistakes that ruin marriages. This is part 2, so I'm going to go over 2 marriage mistakes. Number 1, it's number 3 I suppose if you want to be technical about it, is impatience. And impatience is something that is almost bred into us by our environment. We live in such a fast-paced world that we tend to think that if we don't respond right now, then the world is going to die. Everything's going to go wrong. So what happens is our mind, which is a tool, it's a great tool for us, and what happens is the mind therefore anticipates what's going on, what's being said, what they mean, and wants to, it's like artificial intelligence with less intelligence than it should have, because it's anticipating what's going to come out. And we don't always know. There has to always be a period of awareness within our contemplations of things, our understanding of things, where we have to absorb and understand. This falls back under communication, because what happens is, let's say your spouse says something and your mind, which is something that most people have turned their lives over to, which they shouldn't have, and that's what we teach in our courses and books and stuff, but we allow our mind to dictate our reaction, and our reaction is habitual. So if someone says something to you, the first thing your mind wants to do is complete the sentence, complete the thought. So it's jumping in front of what that person wants to communicate, and we think we know. And what happens, it's really tricky, it's sneaky, because even if they didn't get it all out, the mind has already decided what they were going to say, even if it's different from what they do say. Think about it. It happens a lot. And so this is a form of impatience, and it always gets us into trouble. What we should be doing when our partner is communicating with us is we should be listening with an intention of allowing them to complete their communication, and then do our best to understand what they were trying to say. Now, of course, I'm not talking about, honey, would you pass the ketchup? I'm talking about communication that we should be using for the purpose of connecting. You see, marriage is all about love, happiness, and harmony. Think about that and keep that in mind. I am hearing this, and you can't control them, nor do you wish to. How can I receive this in a loving way and respond to them in a way that's going to create love, create for them happiness, create for us harmony? And if you don't take that time, you'll blow it, because the mind is in a rush all the time. I remember many years ago, I was in business, and my mentor scolded me for something, because whenever anyone had an idea, I believed that I had to respond right now, that it was my obligation. And when he said to me, just tell them it was about a deal that I was making with somebody, and I said, well, I did this. And he said, no, you never do that right away. You just say, well, let me think about it. People are okay with that. So is your spouse. Let me think about it. No, I need to know right now. I understand, but I still need to digest it and understand it. It is perfectly okay. So we have to get rid of this impatience because it gets us into trouble. I want to react right now. I want to tell them how I feel. You don't want to tell them how you feel. That's not loving, to tell them how you feel. What's loving is to hear them fully, understand them fully, and then respond in a positive, uplifting, loving, harmonious way. Okay? So it's a big mistake in marriages, is impatience. Now, the biggest mistake, I saved the biggest for last, is anger. There seems to be these days a belief that expressing your anger is just being yourself. But that's not true. And you got married to your soulmate. So being in open, honest, and loving communication is important. But anger is not loving. And you have to have a filter for yourself. No matter how you're feeling, you have to bear in mind that there's two kinds of feelings. There's the feelings that the mind has, we call them emotions, and then there's the true feeling, which is of the heart, and that is love. And all of the manifestations of love, compassion, understanding, thoughtfulness, consideration. And so we want to communicate from the heart, not from the mind. Where do you think anger comes from? So anger is a biologically triggered thing in our mind, and you know, I don't want to use the board behind me. It's in our courses and in the book where I really explain marriages to people who are taking the course because they want to transform theirs. But I'll try and make it simple. So think of yourself as the soul, because that's what you are. This is not religious. You're the soul. You have a mind, and then you have a body. You're not your body and you're not your mind. But the body is not this dumb animal body. It's trillions of cells, all of them intelligent. They can't think, but they're all intelligent, and they're all living for one purpose: survival. And then the sub-purpose, procreation. I almost said recreation. Let's not go down that path. So the drive to survive is constantly pinging the mind, which is in between you, the soul, and the body. And it's constantly pinging the mind, be careful, watch out, this is dangerous, right? Because it's all about survival. And if the mind detects danger, and remember, the mind is not trained by us as it should be. We are supposed to, and in our courses we teach you how to do that. So the first thing that the mind does is it sets up a fortress, and that fortress is called anger. It shuts down everything else, slows down all the other processes, so it could go to war. That's what anger is. It's the beginning of war. And we allow it to take over our life when it occurs. And so because it's not understood by Western psychologists, because Western psychology doesn't understand anger, all they try to do is manage the anger, not realizing that it's possible. And I've proven this for 20 years plus, and through the foundation courses, you can eliminate anger almost entirely. I say almost entirely because, well, again, this is a little complicated, but there will still be inner triggers that go off even many, many, many years later. But you could eliminate 80% of the anger within weeks. Now, how do I know this? It's not theoretical. It's kind of interesting if you have time for a little story. So I began the marriage, I used to be a divorce mediator, and I began the Marriage Foundation when a couple of clients asked me to save their marriage. I'm a communications expert. Maybe you could help us, because in those days, around 2000, everyone thought that everything was about poor communication. And communication is important, but it's not everything. And I said, okay. And so I started studying marriage. And at the time, I was battling something myself, anger. In 1996, I decided that I would get rid of anger. I had an anger problem. I had an anger problem to the point of where I would find myself on the floor in fetal position, doing everything I could to push out the anger, get rid of it. And I've been meditating for 51 years. I couldn't control my anger. Couldn't. And I got all this scriptural stuff. I got quotes from saints, St. Francis I love the best. And I couldn't get rid of the anger. I was managing my anger. And then what happened was, as I was working with this first couple, and I came up with a binary system for working on the marriage, very pragmatic, very practical, results oriented. But what happened was, the guy came back to me and said, I can't seem to make the choices I want to. And I thought, wow, that's a lot like New Year's resolutions. We make a resolution and we can't keep it. So what good is that? And so I turned to God. He's my source for everything. And I said, I don't know what to do here. I can't reason this one out. So, as often happens, there was a knock on the door. No, I'm joking. He didn't come to me in person. But what happened was, I was inspired with this awareness of what I shared with you about the mind and all that, and that what one must do is control it, and he showed me how. I'm going to say he showed me how because that's what I believe happened, and even gave me this technique. I call it the SO technique: stop, evaluate, act with wisdom. And this worked totally. It gave me, and I have been doing dispassionate introspection for years. That didn't help. I mean, it helps in other areas. It lets me see my flaws. But this gave me a tool, the SO technique. And I started to use it on my anger, and within a few days, I had more control over it than I had in 5 years prior. Fascinating. And it worked for the client too, and it's worked for everyone. Almost all of our clients come to us with part of the problem being anger. Not for everybody, but almost everybody. And the SO technique is an amazing tool. It eliminates anger. So anger, allowing anger, just managing anger is a big mistake. And there is even a school of thought that says, well, you should express your anger. No way should you express your anger ever to anyone at any time. In fact, it should never come out at all. You shouldn't allow it to manifest in any way. No banging on the walls, no beating drums, no throwing your cat out the window. Do not express anger, period. You just stop it, but you got to learn how. And it's a big mistake to think that anger is okay. Now, I'm Paul Friedman. I'm going to just repeat that. I founded the Marriage Foundation because I discovered all of these truths about marriage that are just amazing. And we've been saving thousands, I mean literally thousands of marriages with our courses, and there's free guidance from counselors, and we don't work on this problem and that problem. I realized that there's so little understanding of marriage at all. So we revamped marriages, and it's been huge success for people. So I hope you consider us. If you're having a lot of difficulties, come see what we have. Come to our website, see what we have to offer. And also like this video, leave a comment if you wish, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like. And I hope to see you again. God bless you, and take care.